Hello class. Boom. Today we're going to discuss a little introduction into methods. So I'm going to make a new project and call it specifically that. Now, here's what a method is. A method is, well, first let's start at the beginning here. This entire class, Java 1, everything we've written has been just about inside the main, except for some variables, maybe some imports. But all of our code that actually works and does things typically goes between these two braces. Now, at this point, and on into Java 2, instead of putting everything in the main, we're doing our best to put as little in the main as possible, basically. So in this case, what a method is another place for me to put some code. I can call it whatever name I want, and then I can just write one word here, and it'll run hundreds, thousands of lines of code. So a good example of this, we'll start off and I'll tell you what each part is. Now, a method cannot be in the main. It has to be outside the main. In fact, the main is often referred to as the main method or main function. So I prefer to put mine above it, but you can put your method below it. It depends on your personal preference. Just in my mind, it makes more sense when I put methods above it. The main is going to be the thing that runs. It just makes more sense to have them above it, and then this runs. But it honestly doesn't matter if you put them down here or above it. But it cannot be inside. So this is what a method looks like. We'll do a very simple one. Public static void print. Now, what each of these keywords mean. Public. You have two words you can use here, public or private. Public means anything can use it, anything can access this. Private means only this file, only this class file can access it. And for our purposes for now, everything will just be public. But once you get a little further up in programming, you'll start making things private. And the reason you want that is private things can't be accessed outside your file, giving you some control over how people can interact with your information, with your program. If you make it public, anybody can change anything they want and do whatever they want. Now, if we use Mario for an example, he eats a mushroom, his size changes. That code, let's say, is very public for the size change variable or something. And I go in and I change Mario's size to be, 5 times the size it's supposed to be. And he goes that size, but that screws up all the other programming that entails him breaking blocks and collision and, running across the screen. So I basically, by doing that, I've destroyed the game. Although I think there is a Mario game where he can get that big, but just think of your normal Mario. Well, if I don't want people to change it beyond, like, let's say, the small and the normal big size or whatever it is, uh, then I would make it private. And if they want to change it, I would make something for them to do that, but they'd have to follow the rules I set. It has to be within this range. You can't go beyond this, so you break the whole program. So when they want to change it, they have to follow my rules, basically. That's why you would make something private. Static's a little more tedious to explain, but just know that in the main project here, everything will be static. All your methods will be. The way it works is your main is static, and it's a bit, would I say, Methodist, racist? I don't know. It only works with other static methods. If I make this non-static and I erase that, the program itself is fine, but main is going to complain. It's going to be like, yeah, no, I ain't touching that. That's not static. So everything's got to be static. Void is a little simpler. This means nothing. Basically, this right here is the return type, what this method is going to give back when it's done running. Maybe it's going to do some calculations and figure out some numbers, and it will give me a number back after that. Maybe it's we'll figure out what the biggest of a bunch of numbers are or something. I don't know. Uh, but it's going to give me information back. If it's void, that means it will give nothing back. It's just going to run, do its thing, and that's the end of it. But I could make this an int or a double or anything, really. But it would be public static int, public static double, public static string, public static character, public static whatever object you create, uh, and it would have to return that thing. Now, your normal thing here is, there we go. Your normal method here, just going to run, and it's not going to do anything since it's a void. Now, this is what most things tend to be. It just depends on what you're doing. But let's say I wanted to view the map in a game. That could be hundreds or thousands of lines. Uh, but is that going to change the actual game itself? Do I need anything more than just to view it? I hit the M button, the map pops up, there it is. Maybe I can interact and click on it and do something, but it's not doesn't need to do anything beyond looking, right? I'm not going to change anything in the game by looking at the map. That type of thing would be a good idea for a method. We wouldn't want thousands of lines down here in the main, and then thousands of more, thousands of more. The more stuff you pack in one place, the harder it is to debug and figure out what's going on. Which is why we separate them into methods. Fuzzy pickles. Now, the nice thing about this is I can come up here into this method, and there's the braces. I can write 20 different things, 20 different lines, if statements, loops, whatever I want. And down here, I just simply have to write one line of code. And what I get is it runs. Now, if I don't call it, this is what this is called, a method call, then this method's not going to run, and this confuses some people initially. They'll see, well, there's the code, but the main is the only thing that runs in this project. So if I don't say I want print to run, if I don't call it to run, it won't. So I kind of have to have something here. Now, this is your very simple method. All it does is just print something. I could go a little bit further with it. Public static void add int in1, int in2, and I can give it stuff. I can give it one thing or two things. I can give it a string in, and I can print. Let's see, the string is plus in. End add. Well, I'll just call it display, actually. There we go. Now I can come down here and I can say display. And now I have to give it something. I can't just say display. You'll see it actually complain. It'll say found requires a string, found no arguments. Now what goes in parentheses here is what's called an argument. That is basically what I'm going to give to this method in order for it to run. If I don't give it anything, well, that doesn't match. So I give it a string in this case. That's a string. That's a string. And I run. The string is over 9,000. Fuzzy pickles. So I can pass information to this method. And if I make this an int or a double, it can return it back to me or return something else back to me, but that's another topic. I just wanted to give you a quick kind of rundown of how methods work, because we're going to see a few more of them, especially when you get to Java 2. For those of you that move on, one of our first major topics is working with methods. And just like any programming class, basically the new topic you learn will be used for the rest of the class. If you notice, the programming project that is the final project for this class uses everything: loops, if statements, input, variables, print statements, everything that we've learned pretty much the entire class. And that's pretty much how it is in every single program. As we go on to the next programming class, for Java 2, that becomes more and more. You get, we're still going to be using everything in Java 1, and we're going to add in more stuff. Well, this is your quick rundown in methods. Just very simple methods. One that just displays something, one that I give something to and it displays. I could also pass it a couple of variables and have them add it, display the total of that too. We'll see that in another program though. All right, that's it.